Well, coming up today on Rookie to Roy, we're going to try and make this Jahn Regensburg team Bundesliga fit for our first season up there, unless we get tempted away, because first up, there's a job interview offer from Hoffenheim. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 53 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. Currently, I hope you're doing well and come up today. It should be a transfer special as we try and get these guys ready for our first season up in the Bundesliga. But we could be getting tempted away, as mentioned earlier. We've already got a job interview offer on only the 13th of June still in the 2 Bundesliga, according to the game. So we'll see how things go during the course of today's episode, if it's an introduction to a new club, or it ends up being a transfer special here at Jahn Regensburg. But our transfer budget going into the season is just around the £1.5 million mark, considering we probably want that wage around the 55 to 60k mark spare, considering the amount of money we have to pay these guys to come to a Bundesliga club. So not the biggest amount of money that we do have to spend, albeit obviously if we can sell some older fringe players here, that will bump that up quite nicely. So we'll see how things go if we actually stay here at Jahn Regensburg. But first up, we could be about to get poached by a Bundesliga rival for next season, because Hoffenheim aren't offering us a job interview. They have decided to offer it to us because they feel would be a good fit off the back of signing players no older than 23, that they are a bit concerned about our reluctance towards making set pieces an important part of our game, which confuses me because last season Ruslan was really blooming good at scoring from set pieces. I'm even pretty sure that there was a thing here previously about using set pieces. Indeed, it's on the supporter culture, and the fans are delighted about that. It's not too sure why Hoffenheim don't see that we're actually doing that quite well here at Jahn Regensburg. But in terms of Hoffenheim, they finished 14th this past season, which is not too great, but predicted to finish in 11th. Let's go back here to the league table. They should be a little bit better than what they're doing, and to be fair, that's probably a little bit of a jump up from what we're going to be with Jahn Regensburg once we make our way to the Bundesliga, even off the back of a couple of transfers. So this probably is one that we should attend. Whether we go or not, we'll see. I'm not 100% convinced about jumping ship from Jahn Regensburg ideally. Would actually keep with them for one season at least, and then consider going to another club off the back of making sure that they should keep themselves here in the Bundesliga. If you're wondering, before we get into this job interview, we'll do a quick check-in as well on how Buxton did last season in League 2, where unfortunately had a bit of a drop-off there off the back of the departure of Adam Little. Actually did quite well to get them in the playoffs last season. Unfortunately though, they kind of bottled it after finishing third this season. It was a bit worse, but it does mean now that they'll spend yet another season in League 2, but they were down in 20th, so to be fair, that is a pretty big demotion there for Buxton off the back of the work that we did, as well as Adam Little. Think he made his way to a team up in League 1, someone like Crawley Town, during the course of the last off-seasons. Buxton are still there in League 2, 2 years off the back of us leaving them now, so they're not doing too badly. So fingers crossed that maybe we could get Jahn Regensburg into a situation like that if we stay here, but we will attend this Hoffenheim interview just in case it does end up being a bit of a better idea if Jahn Regensburg do look a little bit cursed to go straight back down. So why have we only worked with a small selection of teams so far? We've got big time loyalty and applying for other jobs. Why do we want to leave? I think we can use the momentum. I don't really want to leave. You guys are headhunting me. The club is looking for someone who can perform to competition expectations. We've got a good record. Don't want to make promises, but we do have a very good record now. The director of football, let's see what Perman Schwelger looks like. He's not awful, but that negotiating could use some work. Not that I actually use it that much, because I usually do all the contracts here, and Football Manager will say we maybe need to think about that. We won't promise anything just yet. As part of the recruitment process, we can make some changes to the backroom staff. We'll say fair, because usually some of these clubs have some pretty rubbish starts, so we want to get rid of a couple of those, albeit if it goes through before the end of the season, that might help us out too. Now, in terms of the club vision, make the most of set pieces. We should be okay with that, considering it's only favoured also sign players under 23. So pretty similar what we had there to Jahn Regensburg within the wage budget. A couple of contract things there. Don't sign old players. Long term is pretty much what that says. Work towards developing the best youth system in the country. Hopefully theirs is a bit better than ours here at Jahn Regensburg, because it's been pretty rubbish. The last youth intake we had, didn't show it to you guys because it was so bad. Only signed about 2 players from it. So hopefully the one here at Hoffenheim might be better. but their objectives are a lot more ambitious than what we've got at Jahn Regensburg. They want to work towards recording a top half finish and then continue to do that. So these guys expect to be a top half team in the Bundesliga and hopefully fighting for some European football. That could be quite interesting. Hopefully as well, we might be able to convince them to give us our Continental Pro license course. Let's see if they'll do that. Indeed they will. So now we've done that, I think we'll have no further requests and we'll see just how that one goes. There, a job interview with Hoffenheim, who should be predicted to do better than Jahn Regensburg, but obviously we do have our tactics and our players that we know work there at Jahn Regensburg, despite the fact we kind of bowled the title there in the 2 Bundesliga at the end of last week. So we'll see how that Hoffenheim job interview goes if we get an offer. If we do, I have a decision to make nice and early during the transfer window. And we've gone for just under a week off the back of that job interview, and unfortunately, it was unsuccessful. So that actually wasted a bit of time early on here in our transfer window, still waiting for it to open. So no business done yet, but it does look like we can maybe focus a bit more now on Jahn Regensburg, because we did not get the Hoffenheim job. They were satisfied with the plans that we put in place, but ultimately decided we weren't the right person to take the club forward. That was Danny Rühl, who was at Bochum. So to be fair, they, I believe, are also up in the Bundesliga, predicted to finish 12th. Not too sure if that's quite as sexy a name, though, as Hoffenheim. So maybe if they offer us a job interview, we'll have to see if it's worth going to. But that does rule out Hoffenheim as an option for us here during this transfer window. We'll just have a quick look too at the job centre, because so far, as I said, the transfer window is not open, so nothing's happened. So let's see if anything else has popped up here, not that we'll be applying. And honestly, it doesn't look like too much more has been coming up. It might be a few more jobs there in Serie A. In fact, there's one, Inter Milan. Those guys have some really good players. Paolo Bonato, their key player, is an absolute starter at only 20 years old to be fair. I think that is probably a bit too much of a step up. We'll just see who left there. And it was Eddie Howe. Now, where has he gone? He's gone to Chelsea. That's certainly an interesting move based on real life, but I guess an FM Chelsea are kind of good. They might be the Premier League champions from memory. Let's just check out what went on in the Premier League. They actually romped home by 9 points. So I suppose that makes sense. The Eddie Howe going to Chelsea. I believe that was off the back of Ancelotti retiring in games. That does open up that Inter Milan job, but it probably is a bit too soon for us to be competing for that. We'll just see who the favourite for that is. It's Nagelsmann. He's at Spurs. So there could be some jobs opening up if there continues to be some big ones that do take from the lower clubs here in the, say, those solid mid-table teams in some top flight leagues. But that certainly is the biggest one on there currently. Valencia still there in the Liga, just like was the case at the end of last week. Going down further, Willem 2 in the Eredivisie. Not too sure about them. And I think going up even further, there was still Anderlecht as well in Belgium, but they're not making too many moves yet, it looks like. So we'll see how things go here during the remainder of the transfer window. But so far, just that Hoffenheim interview, and it did not go well. Just waiting for the window to open up. And going forward about 10 minutes in real life in a week in game, you can see now we actually ticked over into next season. It looks like first up actually, going to have the first round of the DFB Pokal. So not too sure if that's actually something that we'll include during the course of today's episode. Definitely think this one might end up being a bit of a transfer special. And obviously, if we do make a move, Hoffenheim second up, that could now be an interesting game. But first up, we've got Cologne. Honestly, it's a pretty kind start to the season. We get Dortmund off the back of Bayer Leverkusen and Mainz, so October could start to get a little bit more tricky. Bayern and Leipzig back-to-back in December. That's another tricky patch off the back of Gladbach as well. But to be fair, those fixtures quite well scheduled, so not too many rough patches. So fingers crossed that we can actually just pick up enough points here to stay up in the Bundesliga if we're still here at Jahn Regensburg. But we've got another job interview offer, and this one's a little bit of a big one. It's Anderlecht. They've taken their sweet, sweet time, because this one was there at the end of the last episode that we did when we wrapped up that season with Jahn Regensburg. They're very impressed with our fantastic performance. They've identified us as one of the top candidates, and they feel would be an acceptable fit with our strong commitment towards a possession-based game. So this does feel like a bit more of a fit than someone like Hoffenheim. And honestly, Anderlecht, they have European football for next season. I'm pretty sure they finished third in the championship group. They've got Europa League, just missed out there on the Champions League, I say just by 6 points there to Club Brugge. Bit of a funny league with the way that things worked out. They actually topped the league stage of the table there in Belgium, but then bolted a little bit in the championship phase. They can feel a little bit filthy that they actually ended up there not getting one of those Champions League spots. But certainly, this is a team who should be expected to be right up there in Belgium. So this could be a pretty smart move to get a little bit of a taste of European football and try to assert some dominance there over in Belgium. This was the job that I saw at the end of last week and thought it could be quite interesting. So fingers crossed here we can nail this job interview and see if we get an offer. Then we might have a little bit of a tough decision to make. It's great to be here. I love chocolate. Get me to Belgium. How will we overcome the relatively big obstacle of not speaking the language? We get on fine with other languages, mate. I know Korean, and I now know German in game, so we'll use that to our advantage. We know languages. Can we ease their concerns we've never managed before in this country? We've got experience in various other countries, we'll say, all two of them in England and Germany, but hopefully that shows that we can do it in multiple countries. While we only work with a small selection, we are all, just like was the case in that Hoffenheim interview, we've done some highly impressive work. We'll take the momentum, same as that previous interview. Yet again, they want to know if we can perform to competition expectations at the club. So again, my record speaks for itself, because pretty sure we've done that every season so far in the Save and Now. We've had a fair few of them at both Buxton and Jahn Regensburg. Again, a proven track record of spending considerable time in a job. You kind of argue that hasn't been the case so far at Jahn Regensburg, but we haven't left yet. Now, this is a little bit concerning. We need a manager who can work with limited financial resources. Is that us? It sounds like a challenge I'm up for. Honestly, being one of the best teams in Belgium, I thought you'd be a little bit better in terms of your finances. Now, Jörg Schmatke, what does he look like as a DOF? Very, very good. We'll definitely promise that we can work with him. He looks like an absolute stud. Now, as part of the recruitment process, the backroom staff now this time, off the back of that DOF and the fact I actually quite want this job, or at least an offer to go there, I think we'll say a small budget, especially if all their staff look as good as that director of football does, because he had some very nice attributes for that role. Fingers crossed the other staff do have the same. Now, in terms of the ball culture, play position football, high tempo pressing, in other words, bring the Buxton base with you. Don't do what you did when you moved to Jahn Regensburg for that first season. Work within the wage budget, grow the club's reputation, maintain a status as the most reputable team in Belgium, and again, the best youth system in the country. Again, don't sign players who are old to long-term contracts. Grow the club's reputation and win the Pro League. So these guys want us to come in there and win the league from the get-go. And obviously, that would result in some Champions League football, which could be interesting, trying to win the Champions League with a club like Anderlecht. And off the back of that first season, just continue to win. Got to kind of be the Liverpool/Man City here of the Belgium League. So we'll say that that seems acceptable. If we can't do that, we're not much chop as a manager going forward. I think we won't actually ask here for a coaching badge, because we quite want this job. They'll probably give it to us anyway if we ask once we get there. So please give me this job, or at least an offer to it, because I'd quite like a little bit of European football. So we'll see what Anderlecht say off the back of that interview, because that could certainly be an interesting option, especially if we can get in there before the transfer window opens. And going forward a few days, we've got another job interview offer here in the inbox. Before then, we've actually done some transfer business here at Jahn Regensburg. We sold someone the day that the window opened over in a foreign country, and that is Charlie Allen, our third choice central attacking midfielder these days, has gone to Al Nassr for a fee of 550k. You look at that value and probably think that we could have got more for him, but we only bought him for around 60k, indeed 65k. He didn't play that much at the end of last season off the back of the signing of Abdul Kamara. So I think that's some quite good business. Got some youngsters in that position who we can call up if we need to from the under-19s and B team. So I think we're pretty good. Aaron Ramsey, very good first choice, and Kamara as a backup. So Charlie Allen we've got rid of there to bump up the transfer funds. Hopefully that will mean that we can sign some decent players here if we stay at Jahn Regensburg and don't get an offer from Anderlecht off the back of that job interview, because certainly that one's to my head. I'll probably lean towards going to those guys. However, we've got another job interview offer. It's from Bochum. Now, we have officially gone over into the stage where we feature in the season preview of the Bundesliga. So actually check now how we compare to these teams who are trying to poach us. They're all the way down in 15th. this is a team that really, with some good transfers, we should potentially be able to get above there on the Bundesliga table. So despite the fact they've offered us an interview, and it probably would be quite smart to see what they have to offer, I'm not too sure if we really want to take a little bit of what looks like a sideways step. So a pretty quick one here off the back of that transfer. We'll decline the interview. Hopefully that might also make sure that Anderlecht think we actually want them a bit more there if we do that. But Bochum, go away. You're not good enough. Fingers crossed that soon we might get Anderlecht offering us a job. And going forward just over a week off the back of that previous interview offer there from Bochum, and unfortunately turning them down has not helped because Anderlecht have turned us down. They felt we weren't the right person despite the fact they were satisfied with our plans. This one stings. Stefan Baumgart is the manager. They have chosen to take the club forward. Of course, he is Mr. Cheesecutter, who beat us by 1 point with Mainz to lift this via Bundesliga title. So that, I'm not too sure how much of an influence it had, because to be fair, tribute-wise, he's definitely a better manager than we are here in the save. Yeah, tribute-wise, we're not quite as good there as Baumgart is just yet, but that 1 point might have cost us a really freaking good job there. So I'm a bit annoyed about that bottle job we did late last season. I'll actually check if we can maybe sell our backup goalkeeper, because he cost us that title. I now want to get rid of him. Where is he here on our list? Where are the goalkeepers? There he is, Leon Herdez. Unfortunately, I think he might have just signed a new contract here. Indeed he did, so we probably can't sell him, otherwise he'd be gone. Not too sure why we offered him a new contract off the back of the end of last season. It might have actually gone through a little bit earlier when we scheduled that through back when he had potential. But you, mate, can go to the B team. You've just cost me a job I really wanted. Mr. Cheesecutter has pinched it off us there by going to Anderlecht, and I don't like it at all. So I'm not too sure if we'll be on the move now in the save. Obviously, it means that the Mainz job is available, but just like Bochum, that won't be too much of a step up. It'll actually be a sideways step, and now would probably be expected, I'd say, to finish above Mainz if we stay here, because with that continuity, you'd probably expect us to do better than a team with a new manager. A quick update on what the job centre does look like. You can see there too, redoing our staff here at Jahn Regensburg. There is another job in Belgium. It's Mechelen. Don't think they're too good. Going down, and now Arsenal are available in the Premier League. That's because over in Italy, Mikel Arteta did leave to join Inter Milan. So that, I suppose in real life, does make quite a bit of sense with Inter Milan going further in the Champions League than good old trophyless Arsenal did. There you can see Mikel Arteta left off the back of nearly 10 years in charge. He did pick up 2 leagues, but he felt like he needed a bigger club, so he has gone to Inter Milan. So it does mean Arsenal's open, but again, that's probably a little bit above our pay grade or our reputation here at Jahn Regensburg at the moment, especially with those guys being a 5-star reputation club. The guy that they might be after, Vitor Bruno, is at Porto, albeit there's no wanted symbol, so not too sure how true that is, but that certainly would then make things interesting. If he went to Arsenal, that might be a job that actually we could have a realistic chance of getting off the back of Baumgart taking that one off us there at Anderlecht. So we'll see what happens there with that Arsenal job. Going down further, as I mentioned, Mainz now opens up, and also Sassuolo from Serie A. I'm not too sure how decent those guys should be. But yeah, still a few jobs now popping up in Europe, but unfortunately we don't get Anderlecht. Also, a quick check as well. Have we done any transfers that have actually gone through? And we have a couple of players joining us here that we sorted out during the course late last season. Victor Dace comes in from Man City on a free centre-back with a bit of potential. He'll come in and be a little bit of a fringe player, actually expecting to be loaned out. So don't expect to see too much of him this upcoming season, but has a bit of potential. So we picked him up there on a free from Man City, the Brazilian. And also Dylan Malikin, we bought in as a new first choice left winger on a free, formerly of the good old Sporting Kansas City. A bit of blue hell coming here to Jahn Regensburg. So we'll see how he gets on as our first choice, albeit we might potentially be bringing an upgrade on him as well, depending on if the player chooses us. But currently, he's got some bids in from some other Premier League teams. Not too sure if we'll get that guy, but Murican certainly will be an upgrade on Matthew Stollery, who took a wee while to find his form last season. That might cost him his first team spot. So we've got a couple of new players and one new first teamer. Unfortunately, though, we did not get that Anderlecht job. And a week off the back of that disappointment, thanks to our useless backup goalkeeper as well as a cheese cutter man there from Mines, we've got another job interview, our fourth one of this window, and this one we might actually attend. It's from Sassuolo over in Serie. We saw this one pop up earlier off the back of the Inter Milan Anderlecht situation that we did check in on. They want to interview us off the back of our dedication for the club's vision, all that stuff, signing young players, what we were saying before through other job interview offers that we have had. Now, Sassuolo expected to be pretty much smack bang in the middle of Serie A, so we'll see if this might be a good move. You dare say it would be. Should be no danger of getting relegated with these guys if they're expected to finish smack bang mid-table. Obviously going to be some teams there who are better than us, but there should be a fair few who are worse than us as well, so this might not be the worst idea to try and actually take this job interview seriously. Not super convinced yet like I was with Anderlecht. It's not my dream job, I'd say, in this window, but it's probably not too bad considering the situation we'll have here with Jahn Regensburg expected to be fighting to try and avoid automatic relegations. What we would do in terms of the language, we'll just say the same as we have in previous interviews. For the most part, yet again, we've got experience and we've shown loyalty, we've got momentum, all that sort of stuff. Now, apparently, a certain malaise seems to have crept into our squad and our players don't look happy. Why have we allowed that to happen now? Usually that happens because they've had a holiday, and for some reason, holidays in FM make players grumpy. So I think he will say that we disagree with that. Not too sure where that's come from, truth be told. Our dynamics here at Jahn Regensburg have been quite good in terms of the manager. We have proven track record of spending considerable time in the job. We'll stick with that. Now, what does their director of football look like? Pretty average. I think we'll say in this case that we probably actually want to think about it. Not too sure about that deal. Certainly not as good as the one that we did see at Anderlecht. Again, we want to make some changes to staff this time. Probably a decent budget because your staff look a little bit worse there than what Anderlecht had. Develop players using the club's youth system and sign young players under 20 for these guys. So I want younger players than what we've been getting in at Jahn Regensburg for the most part. We're from the wage budget and going down further. No long contracts for really old players, but to be fair, not as bad as we've had in those other interviews that we've got so far this window. And just finish inside the top half of the Serie A. So I think we can do that given that season preview. Now they want us to finish in the top half of the table. I actually think that maybe we say Conference League because this team is a decent position there on the season preview. We might overpromise a little bit. Now the transfer budget, 64k the first time we've seen this, considering we've ticked over now into a new season. I think we should have to accept this because no doubt there might be a little bit spare in the wage budget. And yeah, they've got 1.4 million in their wage budget, so probably a bit spare there that we can use. And of course, also, they've probably got some higher valued players that we can get rid of compared to the situation here at Jahn Regensburg. So we'll agree there with the financial stuff. Now, can we ask these guys for the coaching badge? Because I actually quite like that here off the back of really wanting that Anderlecht job. We didn't push so hard. They don't want to give us a coaching badge, no benefits. So I think we'll just say, just forget it, never mind, and we're good off the back of that. So we'll see how that interview there with the Sassy Boys does go there over in Serie A. We'll see if we get tempted to join them. But as I said, not super convinced about that move, but really might not be the worst considering their expectation quite a bit higher than with our Jahn Regensburg team, albeit we've now done some transfers that might mean it's not quite so bad here this season. As you can see, there's a fair few too that are still to go through with our 1.3 million left in the transfer budget. Departing from the club is Christian VA for 600k, our third choice right back, 30 years old. Didn't really need to use him in this upcoming season. So he's gone there to Paderborn down in this Zweite Bundesliga. I think it was a good time there to get rid of him. And as well as that, we've actually made a signing, and that was of Johann Regensburg, who was the player I wasn't too sure would get as that new first choice left winger. So unfortunately for American, it means that he drops down to being the backup. Good old Matthew Stollery might be about to leave the club or at least get relegated to a third choice or a B team player. But this guy we've picked up from Bournemouth for 1.5 million. I think it was rising up to 2 million overall, but he looks like a really good pickup there at only 19 years old. So a good couple of signings for us there down that left wing. So fingers crossed that might be a bit better than it was last season in this Bundesliga, and we'll see how things go with that Sassuolo interview. And we've gone for another week, and yet again our interviewing in this save has been pretty rubbish. Sassuolo are not offering us the job there in Serie A. They were satisfied with the plans, but again, not the right person to take the club forward maybe. We're just not quite ready for a big job in this save yet, according to all these clubs. Gasper Galvez is the man who's taken over, formerly at Granada. Not too sure if that's a job we want to try and go there and replace him, because they are expected to be down the end of the relegation zone of La Liga. So to be fair, that might be the last job interview that we do get during the course of this off-season. A quick update on what that job centre does look like, just in case something has popped up interesting. Juventus, that's because Arsenal took their previous manager in Roberto De Zerbi, but they say that is probably a bit too far above us if we can't get jobs like Sassuolo. We'll just see who the favourite is to go there to Juventus. It's the stud Renee manager. Now, those guys might not be out of sight. They're a 4-star reputation club expected to finish 5th, and with Europa League football, if that one came up, maybe would have to consider it, but probably not expecting it off the back of what's happened so far here in this window. A couple of job interview offers, but unfortunately, they haven't gone too well for us. Going down further, as I said, Granada, that would be a bit of a sideways move, and that's really it that interests me, I think, in this current job centre. So I dare say we might be staying put here at Jahn Regensburg off the back of a couple of potential head turners that we've had during the course of the off seasons. Because of that, let's switch over to the transfer history. You can see there our transfer budget is now 3.2 million. We've done some selling, so let's show you guys what we've done off the back of the interview that we had. Now, going away from the club, the big sale has only actually been one, with a couple of loans there of Martin Jarvis, one of our deep-lying forwards we signed last season for a 2-striker system that we never used. Also departing was Victor Reyes, the player we got in on a free from Man City to fulfill a promise we made to him, and Kai Borchers, a centre-back from down in our B team. So a couple of loans out there, but the big sale is of Noah Pierre to Hamburg for £3 million, rising to 3.5. He we picked up last season on a free, formerly of Bayern Munich. So to be fair, I thought that despite the fact he might have some quite high potential, getting that money now for him, with us being a favourite to go down straight away to the 2 Bundesliga, would not be the worst idea. So we've cashed in there on a player who's barely been here. I think that's some quite good business. Obviously, ideally, we probably want to keep him, but the 3 million value did seem quite nice. So we've got rid there of Noah Pierre, not good enough to feature in the first team just yet. We'll see if Hamburg can make something of him, but 3 million is a fair bit of money that we can play with. Going back over to the transfers, we have brought in a couple more players. Rene Muller, we've brought in as a new first choice striker with only 900k. So obviously, that's been funded by a part of that Noah Pierre fee. He comes in from Vizela over in Portugal, I want to say. He's Portuguese, and a massive upgrade on Leighton Stewart. So that is a pretty good bit of business for the fee that we have paid. So he is going to be our first choice striker going into the new season. Also going over the inbox, we've got one about to join us as a new backup in the event for Toff. So it might mean that maybe Leighton Stewart's someone that we can offer out to Saudi Arabia. He comes in for a £1 million release clause, and he is agreeing to be the backup there to Rene Muller. Again, bit of an upgrade there on Leighton Stewart. So to be fair, we've got rid there of a young striker who wasn't quite good enough and brought in 2 players for less than what we got for the youngster. So I think we've done quite well there, improving up front. Leighton Stewart, not too bad for us last season. We'll see if he wants to stay here now off the back of those couple of moves that we have made. And also, let's go back here to the transfer history. Just an extra left back body that we've brought in, seeing as Paul Cooper this season, we can actually use as one of our backup centre backs. Luigi Bossio comes in, formerly of Crotone and Napoli, on a free. Will mostly spend his time in the B team and the under-19s, but an extra body with a fair bit of potential. So a couple of transfers we've done here while we're waiting off the back of that Sassuolo interview, which unfortunately is no good. So it feels like might be staying here at Jahn Regensburg, but we do still have about 2 million to spend, and there's still a month until our first game of the season in the DFB Pokal. And we've gone for just under a month, and I'm about to play the first game of our season. It's a pretty easy one. We've got the first round of the DFB Pokal. Eimsbüttel TV. We should be fishing those guys there below the free league, so I think we'll skip over that one as our first game of the season and come back tomorrow for our first couple of Bundesliga games here, which will be against Cologne as well as Hoffenheim. To be fair, those two games do look somewhat winnable, so fingers crossed we can pick up some points early here in the Bundesliga season, especially off the back of Hoffenheim not giving us that job offer there off the back of that first interview that we did have. But it does mean I've had a solid month now with no job interview offers, and we've been able to focus on some transfers. So that is what we've done. Still one more that might be coming in there from Ajax, FM Butler for only 200k, just a bit more as an extra centre back body. He looks quite handy, so we'll see what we can do with him with that good potential on the cheap. Thought might as well spend the money seeing as we had it, because there has been a bit more movement in terms of both outs and ins. You can see there now we've got rid of £6 million and spent $8 million, so spent a bit more than I thought we'd have off the back of getting rid of the likes of Borchers the last time we saw you. Another loan there out of Tim Albert as well as Osni to Cherry, a couple there of young promising attackers we do have on our books, but also off the back of the signings of those strikers that we made. Leighton Stewart has gone to Saudi for 1.9 million. So obviously we do make a loss there on the Englishman we did sign from Preston North End, but I don't think it's too bad a loss considering how average he was in that first season last season. Certainly an upgrade, our top goal scorer, but with all the chances that we created, just not too sure if he potentially should have got over the 20 goal mark. So we've got rid there of Leighton Stewart off the back of 2 solid seasons here at Jahn Regensburg. Not too bad a loss in terms of finances, and we've upgraded with those other signings that we ran through the last time that we did come back off the back of being turned down there by Sassuolo. So Leighton Stewart no longer here at Jahn Regensburg. He can be an important player over there at Al Nassr. We'll see if he does better than Ronaldo did, but a few more signings that we've made now. First up, we've improved our backup goalkeeper, which probably should have been the first thing we did off the back of how we lost the title last season in the Serie Bundesliga, coming in from Viking, but 2.2 million upfront, albeit I'm pretty sure it wasn't all that upfront. There's a fair few installments in this deal and some after league game stuff that did make up that 2.2 million. But from Viking, Bjorn Tore Lingbar comes in as a backup goalkeeper. Honestly, we probably could use him as a starter if we really needed to, but he looks like a super promising goalkeeper, especially if Lukic does feel like departing the club. There was some interest previously from Ajax for him. Thankfully, that has dissipated, but he is a very, very good backup. Using him in the cups especially, he should develop quite nicely. So Bjorn Tore Lingbar comes in as our new backup goalkeeper. A massive upgrade on what we had previously. Fingers crossed that gets shown shortly when I play that first game. He should do a lot better than Herdez, because it's pretty hard to do worse. So we brought in there Lingvar as our new backup goalkeeper. Also, Zeno Schneider comes in as a third choice deep line playmaker, an area we're a little bit weakened in terms of bodies. He comes in from Feyenoord. That was for 600k, just a good solid midfielder that we can use when we need to, but most of his game time will be for the B team, but a good solid midfielder there just to add depth and to round things off for now before hopefully that extra centre back signing does come through. Giuseppe La Rosa comes in and should actually go in between Bullic and Lopez as our backup ball-winning midfielder, because he's only 18 years old out of Italy. We've signed him from Genoa and does have some quite nice attributes. So we brought him in to be the backup there in midfield to Sebastian Lopez. So just freshening things up there in midfield, a bit more youth than someone like Racine Bullock, who rating-wise isn't too good, but attribute-wise does look quite handy still. So we'll see what we do with Racine Bullock. Still got 2 years left on his contract. Probably just let that run down and see what happens off the back of that. But La Rosa should come in and be second choice there to Sebastian Lopez. So I think that pretty much does it for today's episode. Unfortunately, no new job here. Not that I really wanted one, but Anderlecht would have been quite nice. Frickin' Baumgart and his cheese cutter hat. That's actually annoyed me, because if we didn't bottle the title last season, maybe we would have actually got favoured for that job instead of the Mainz manager. But unfortunately, we didn't get that Anderlecht one, or the Sassuolo one, or the Hoffenheim one. Not too sure if I actually would have been too keen to join Hoffenheim. So we are still here at Jahn Regensburg. In terms of the season preview, we won't show you our squad just yet, because it's all rotated for the first round of this DFB Pokal. But we're expected to not be the absolute worst, but we're not far off being a team who potentially could finish mid to lower table, which I'm hoping for here in our first season in the Bundesliga. We'll see how we get on though when we come back at the start of tomorrow's episode. We'll play those games, as I said, against Cologne and Hoffenheim, fingers crossed as well. We won't get Bayern in the second round of the DFB Pokal this year, so that will do it For today's episode, there's the B team if you're wondering that we're about to play in this next game, and that bench is pretty much our first team. We'll actually just short this out so you guys can see what our first team does look like. And there is what we'd usually be rocking with going into a Bundesliga game this season here at Jahn Regensburg. I mean, a couple of changes there in our first team, and Tabuki there at left wing and Rene Muller up front. A few more changes though on our bench and for the cup games that I'm about to play. So a few transfers that we have done. Fingers crossed the squad might just be good enough to stay up in the Bundesliga, but we'll see during the course of this upcoming season, because it's still going to be here at Jahn Regensburg. So if you guys enjoyed that episode, bit of a funny one, wasn't too sure if we'd be on the move in the end. We are still here at Jahn Regensburg for our first one in the Bundesliga. If you enjoyed our transfers though, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. As I said, we'll come back tomorrow, play our first couple of games in the league, Cologne away and Hoffenheim at home. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.